Welcome to the Kalya Perera YouTube channel. So this is the second episode in English medium for this channel, and so earlier we had a discussion with Dr. Lionel Bopage. So today my guest is Professor Gamini Keerawella. So he's retired from the University of Peradeniya and it's a vast experience as a commentator in political and historical developments, as well as particularly on geopolitical issues. And he was the executive director of Bandaranaike Center for International Studies until last month. Today we are going to discuss about the political development, particularly defined in terms of the unprecedented, the election victory of the National People's Power, led by his presidential candidate Anurakumara Disanayake, where he won the recently concluded presidential election. And so we are going to discuss the significance of this important event. Professor Keerawella, how do you weave this as a political observer? And also, I need to mention that he has a very special connection with the history of Janata Vimukthi Peramuna as a frontline activist of the JVP during 1971 insurgency, and so thereafter he became a scholar who extensively studied the history of youth politics, so you are one of the most suitable persons to discuss this issue among the other qualifications that you have as a professor of history. And how do you see the significance of this important, the landmark is the electoral politics in Sri Lanka?
Well, thank you very much, Nirmal, for your kind words to introduce me. We historians sometimes use words very loosely. But one of these words is turning points in history. Yeah. We know in Sri Lanka, many events were described as turning points.
Correct.
But this turning point did not turn history. But this time, I can surely assert you that we have a turning point that has the potential to turn our history. That is.
Don't you think that it has already?
Yes, it is already. Yeah. We can see the signs of the turning history. Therefore, I feel that this is a turning point in post-colonial history of Sri Lanka.
So, what are the major elements of this turning point?
One is, it is now very clear, this is a transition of power from one layer to another layer. Okay. Normally in history, that type of transition from one layer to another takes place in violent manner. Yeah. But this is a very peaceful manner, the peaceful way in which the transition took place. That is a very significant thing, because when we see the constitution, the construction of this the victory, we can see the different class, different social layers came forward to assume the state power. That itself is reflected by the little number of steps taken by the government. It is very, just now, today, Saturday, that is only 1 week after the election. But the changes that took place is very profound. I will give you one example. One of my colleagues was not in favor of the NPP victory, and earlier he told me that how can they assume administrative the positions, they don't have necessary manpower. I talked to him yesterday. He said, okay, they are doing a marvelous job, and people are talking in favor of these people. Especially he talk of the changes it took. They have initiated in the field of the Ministry of Defense and the security, public security. Therefore, even though it is sometimes one may say it is premature to come to some conclusion, but in Sinhala we have a saying that Hadinagaha Dipettin Dane. Likewise, we can see that the change is taking place. How the issue is, how do they achieve? They from 3% to this amount of public support. That itself significant development, historically with historical significance, from 3% of votes to the status of assuming state power within 5 years' time. I think this is mainly due to number of factors. First, their dedication and commitment. We can't underestimate the dedication of these people. I know in my area, I attended some group meetings. The person is one Aruna. He is working in the food distribution, the stall here. He is the person who arranged these things. Small group discussions. They openly discuss these things. The politics, the issues, that type of. That means that commitment is clearly there. We can see that thing even in 1971. When I was in JVP, I see that the commitment of the cadres. I am talking about the conditions 55 years ago. Situation has changed, but still I can see the same commitment of the cadres of the JVP. We can see that thing. I got associated with later on number of I know number of political cadres. We can see that commitment from other political parties. That is one factor. That is not sufficient. They were able to read the political context very sharply. Miserably, other political parties did not read the political situation very well. That is also the factor. Most important factor, I think, the impact of Aragalaya, and also impact of post-Aragalaya policies of Ranil Wickremesinghe. Aragalaya was was also a very significant, the significant political development because of two factors. One thing is people believed that they are able to decide the fate of the country.
Let me add that what you mean by Aragalaya is the mass uprising that took place in 2022.
Yes. That is very important. They think that ordinary people can register their protest, and they can chase out the people they did not like, and they voted him 2 years back overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
But secondly, that is very important, they got out from the political, the clutches of political agents, political cronies. Earlier in here, our political system developed de-empowering voters.
Right.
That means to develop a system called, I would call it, gradually, after so many years after attaining universal suffrage, we de-empowered voters.
Right.
Because of the rise of political cronies and political class parallel to de-empowering voters. Now, because of the various the political machinations and activities, the political class de-empowered voters and relegated them to a sort of Kankani system.
Yeah.
In Kankanis, they have the voter, the labor force. Likewise, political agents, the claim that they have this amount, this number of voters. In this way, they empower individual voters, and that people came out from Kankani system, political Kankani system during the Aragalaya. Another important thing is that political class, I would say, that term of political class came up during when scholars analyze political development in the Soviet Union. Even though October Revolution demolished classes, they developed now new class. They called it political class. In Russian language, they called it nomenclatura. In Sri Lanka also, we can see the development of political class. They came out, and during that time, political class was symbolized by Mahinda Rajapaksa. Mahinda Rajapaksa's hegemony, and Mahinda Rajapaksa was the symbol of this political class. Hegemony of Mahinda Rajapaksa was destroyed by the Aragalaya. That is reflected in 2024 political victory. Therefore, on the one hand, the Aragalaya instill with the people the feeling of they can change the system. Even after that, they wanted interim government and political changes, constitutional changes, new system. They need, and society, wider section of society, including Mahanayakas, the Bar Association, supported the concept of interim government. Then what happened? It was hijacked by, Aragalaya was hijacked by Ranil Wickremesinghe, and step by step he unleashed very repressive state machinery in order to suppress element of Aragalaya. People were very angry. That feeling was reflected in Aragalaya. Therefore, that is another factor. Thirdly, people were fed up with the violation of rule of law. The politicians blatantly violated systems, violence. Violence is the property of force. They use state power as a property in order to violate the system. Therefore, in Sri Lanka, people saw that Sri Lanka is a system without a Sri Lanka is a country without a system. They need a system. In order to have a system, they need rule of law. Politicization of administration. Politicization of administration was the curse because people suffered. Even promotion, school system, even everything is ultimately decided by political leadership and politicization. And ultimately, in 2015, we established independent commissions in order to depoliticize the system. But President himself summoned independent commission to the President office and give instructions. For example, Chairman of the Human Rights Commission repeatedly told me during that time how the commission was summoned by then President Maithripala Sirisena to the President's office and give instructions. It became a joke, independent. People view all these things. Therefore, people needed a change. That is reflected in 2024 general elections.
So, in other words, this is a kind of reflection of the accumulated discontent about the the system.
Yes.
The developed the last let's say 40-50 years.
Yes.
And so I think so you made a very interesting remark, and also I mean, before going into the next stage of the discussion, Professor Keerawella, I would like to ask you that isn't it interesting and significant to notice that the major component of this National People's Power, the NPP, is the Janatha Vimukthi Peramuna, People's Liberation Front. So who attempted twice to capture the state power via the armed insurgency in 1971, the first time, and then 87-89. But this time, so they led the movement with the mass support, a massive mass support. We noticed that I mean, as a part of the election campaign, so there were large mass rallies, and so where people enthusiastically participated, particularly the young people, professionals, and and so that is one thing. And also, I also would like to get your comment on another important issue. So there are a lot of people, particularly those from the political elite, that they anticipated, in case of NPP victory, lot of violence, right? Some thought that the NPP would unleash violence against their political opponents after the election. Many thought, many reminded about what happened in 87-89, and how political opponents were executed and so on, right? But it's a, I mean, amazingly peaceful situation in the post-election times. So how do you see this? I mean, this remarkable transformation of the JVP from political organization that followed armed insurgency as a major political tool into a peaceful mass movement.
Yeah, Nirmal, you asked two interrelated questions. Answer one explains the second question. First thing about the you asked, if I put it differently, class composition of the election victory, MPP.
Yeah.
You can see, when we see the election difference between election, the difference of election rallies, you can you can come to that conclusion. When you see political rally organized by NPP, people were young people, basically professionals, right? They were, you can see the similarity. Then it is not the case in
the other political parties.
Samagi Jana Balawegaya, because various social spectrum, overwhelmingly, in large scale, youth and professional class came forward to support
the
NPP. You can see that thing. That does not mean that they are they supported without, they were the change agents, and they took the message to the villages.
To support your argument, even the pre-election surveys suggested that there's an overwhelming support of the young voters,
young people,
to the NPP.
You can see that thing. The change of the composition of the people in the Colombo district. Outer the circular way, like Homagama, Maharagama, Nugegoda, Kottawa, all these people, they were the people that those areas were the base of Gotabaya Rajapaksa,
which include the electoral divisions such as Kaduwella,
where I live, Maharagama, all these people.
Kasbawa,
they are the people
Gamba district and so on.
Who this professional class who came from village to city, occupy some positions in administration. They get 10%, the 15%, 20%, 20 purchase, the purchases, land blocks, and they concentrate. They are the educated people. They overwhelmingly supported the Aragalaya. They supported Aragalaya. Aragalaya changed their mindset, and later on they are the people who supported NPP, because they realized, they were the people who first realized country can't go forward with this. Then after the election, I will say defeat of Janata Vimukti Rabana in 2019, they change, and they realize there is an impact on the impact of Aragalaya on them also. At first, JVP was not in the front of Aragalaya. They were not not supportive of Aragalaya.
So they had some critics. They criticized that these kind of leaderless
that type of thing. But later
they blame that there's no proper political leadership.
Leadership. So after that they realize this is the political movement. They address that thing. After actually JVP, the rise of Malimawa started after Aragalaya.
So in other words, so they were able to represent the cheap slogan of the Aragalaya, the system change.
Change.
So they became the agent of
That's why that is the ability of the leadership of Anura Kumara and new leadership, not only Anura Kumara, new leadership of the NPP to address these elements. They read Sajith Premadasa and Ranil Wickramasinghe miserably failed to read this situation.
So they were sort of perceived as by the people as representative of this elite, the Onchon regime.
Then earlier, up to I would come to the second question you raised. Up to this point, there were political changes. But that is basically regime changes.
Yeah.
There were same political class,
Yeah.
same political class changed the state power
Yeah.
time to time. But for the first time, different social section
Yeah.
came forward to assume the power.
Yeah.
They can't understand the political behavior. They were all the, either they look at these masses of people either as kankanis, political kankanis, or the voter, the constituency under kankanis.
Right.
They did not perceive them as independent political units.
Yeah.
If they think that if they win over, if they can win over political agents and cronies, they can get the support of the people. Then that is the one of the mistakes. Other thing is they believe they can't grasp the reality of political change. New political class is capable. The people coming from central schools who can they speak only vernacular languages, Sinhala, Tamil, can come and occupy this the presidency.
Yeah.
They can't believe that thing. Therefore, that fear is there. Because of that fear, they think that if they come to power, they will destroy everything.
Yeah.
But they will destroy everything, not physical things.
Yeah. Right.
They will destroy the system
So
step by step.
So in other words, this is a kind of the dismantling of the system that you described as this Kankani system, which de-empowered the voters. And so this is the kind of, I mean, this is a very good definition of what actually happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And Professor Keerawella, shall we move on to the next part of the discussion? Particularly, I would like to get your views on the geopolitical dimensions of this victory, since you are a keen observer of the global geopolitics, particularly the South Asian, the geopolitical situation in South Asia, and so I think so we know that so this transfer of power is going to be very important. Even already when you look at the international media, so international media has highlighted that sometimes many say that a Marxist leader has become president in Sri Lanka, and many people say that even American media, so they say that the left wing. So it's a kind of there's a kind of the interesting perception towards the new government. I mean, so how do you locate this NPP victory in terms of the geopolitics in the South Asia region, and what are the implications, and also what kind of challenges ahead the NPP government? How do you assess this?
Yes. Well, MPP victory and political change in Sri Lanka took place at a very critical juncture in global politics. Global politics is going through a very fundamental, very profound changes at present. Global level, Indian Ocean level, South Asian level, various, at least these three levels. Then all All these three levels are important to Sri Lanka. These changes are critically important. Globally, now we are witnessing the sort of paradigm shift in global politics. Earlier, we had, if I say, if I look at the world politics since Second World War, we had a Cold War period. Then after that, we see the collapse after the collapse of the Soviet Union. We can see the post-Cold War period. That is the hegemony of the United States.
So from bipolar system in the Cold War period to a unipolar system
unipolar
after the end
system.
of the Cold War.
Now,
it's the unipolar system also collapsed.
Collapsed with the emergence of China as well as the emergence of other political actors. India, Russia, and China. China is the emerging superpower, as I mentioned earlier. Then European Union, and also African countries. They also come forward to play a very important role. Therefore, American hegemony has been challenged in globally. That is only one aspect of the global politics. Another important development is taking place in global politics. That is, in addition to international political space, there emerged another very important space called international public space. International public space where state actors as well as non-state actors come forward to play a very important decisive role in deciding international political agenda. In this situation, we have to take into consideration these two factors. In addition to that, thirdly,
so in other words, so now the most important players in international geopolitics is not only state actors, but
also non-state actors, non-state international actors. In addition to that, there are very crucial other issues, right? Not constrained by the limits of nation states. For example, global warming, international terrorism, human poverty, human development, environmental issues, global warming, all these things are very important. Especially countries like Sri Lanka, this is this global politics is very important, and we need new perspective. For traditional perspective is not sufficient and it is not valid. We need much more broader perspective. I will come to the broader perspective later. Secondly, Indian Ocean is going through a drastic transformation right now because the naval entry of China as well as India. China is the emerging superpower in close vicinity. India is the emerging great power on our doorstep. We have to deal with this. They are and Indian Ocean is critically important, especially hydrocarbon resources coming from the Persian Gulf is vital for industrial. This is called industrial. It is crucial for industrial heartbeat. In this situation, in this context, Sri Lanka is critically important. This then globally, global warming, all these things, Sri Lanka can play a very important role. Then another important factor is South Asia. Sri Lanka is primarily located in South Asia. In South Asia, earlier we had asymmetric bipolarity between India and Pakistan. Now we have unipolar. Asymmetric bipolarity pave way to Indian hegemony in South Asia. That at the same time, we have to understand that India needs stable South Asian backyard if they want to go forward to assert its global leadership. In this situation, Sri Lanka has to play. In Sri Lanka, India-Pakistan, in Sri Lanka's relationship with India is very unique. On the one hand, we love India. We got many things from India. At the same time, we are fearful. Once Ivor Jennings said, Sri Lankans is having a feeling that they are living under avalanche, where they can send anytime they can send the bulk of ice.
Yeah.
Likewise, we have that love-hate relationship. How to handle all these things are the main challenge. Therefore, we need a new perspective. For that, foreign policy and defense policy, interrelated elements, should, like in a country like Sri Lanka, need to address two things. One is meeting the threats. It is similar to all countries. Other one is addressing reduction of vulnerabilities. Our main problem in foreign policy, is reduction of vulnerabilities. Reduction of vulnerability is very closely related to the nature of the ruling class.
Right.
The foreign policy is the policy of the state. The state is in final conclusion, it is the policy of the ruling class. When we have very weak working ruling class, and when we have a ruling class which does not have any ideology other than staying in power, we can't have stable foreign policy, because our foreign policy is changing from event to event. This is the zigzag process. That is the reflection of the nature of our ruling class. When we don't, ruling class means, those who are having the power as well as those who advise to the ruling class. All these things. Our ruling class is very weak. Our bureaucracy is very weak. Our bourgeoisie is very weak. And also our civil society, so-called civil society, is also very weak. In this situation, our state is very weak state. In weak state, we can't have strong foreign policy. Therefore, in order to address the challenges, main thing, foreign policy challenges, we have to reduce our vulnerabilities. What are the vulnerabilities? Economic vulnerability. We will not be able to address economic vulnerability because present economic system is integrally related to the interest of the ruling class. Therefore, they will not come forward to change the economic system. Without change in the economic system, we will not be able to address vulnerabilities. Then second vulnerability is the ethnic vulnerability. We need a strong state. We use ruling class because of their weakness. They divide our nation and use and try to come to power using the ethnic divisions. In this situation, they will not be able to address our ethnic vulnerabilities. Political vulnerabilities associated with mismanagement, corruption, the rule of the adherence, not adherence to the rule of law, political interference, all these things are basically, therefore, we don't have a legitimate state. Our state is illegitimate. In this situation, we will not be able to address political vulnerabilities. Therefore, in order to have a strong foreign policy, we have to have a strong ruling class with strong legitimacy. For that, I think political change is real political change is necessary for strong foreign policy. I think right now we have that political change. We will keep our fingers crossed in order to see how we proceed. I am confident we will have a strong foreign policy.
So in other words, what you argue is that as I understood, your main argument that there's an integral relationship between the foreign policy, the foreign policy and the domestic policy.
Yes,
domestic
exactly
politics,
that is the case.
right? So therefore, actually, so I think what I would see is that you need a kind of occupy the morally high ground before the international actors.
Yes,
Particularly at a time when, as you said, the global civil society, the non-state actors are very important.
Yes.
So when you enter into the global scene, so you are not only dealing with the diplomats and the state actors, but you also addressing to the vast array of a large spectrum of non-state actors.
Yeah.
Right.
In order to do that
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
we need a strong state.
Yeah.
In order to have a strong state, we need a strong
Yeah.
the ruling class.
Yeah.
Right now, we will not be able to.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
liberal, so-called liberal, neoliberal political agenda will not work
Yeah.
in countries like Sri Lanka. In order to pursue with the neoliberal economic agenda, we need a strong the bourgeoisie. Since we don't have a strong bourgeoisie, we will not be able to get the positive positive results, positive outcome of neoliberal political agenda. Therefore, we will not be able to achieve any positive outcome by pursuing neoliberal political agenda.
Yeah.
Because strong state means legitimate state.
So I think so. We have to end discussion the discussion at this point because we are running out of time. And thank you very much, Professor Keerawella. I think hopefully we can continue our discussion later on because we are only we just experienced the transfer of power.
Yeah.
So now it is a kind of transitional stage, and so there's also an important the parliamentary election coming up. So therefore we have to we are sort of in the middle of historical transformation.
Yes.
I think that as a historian how important to be in the middle of epoch making events, and as you said that everyone there's a tendency to trivialize certain historical certain events and labeling them as turning points, but we are experiencing truly in every sense a turning point in history. So we have become participant as well as observers and commentators. I think so you occupy both this position. Thank you so much, Professor Keerawella. I think
thank you. It is my pleasure.
Yeah.
I am happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us,
Yeah.
and so we end this show with this note. Thank you.